Park stood in the docking bay of the Eternal Dawn, watching the shuttle descend through the energy shields. He did not want to be here. He was a soldier, not a babysitter. His hands were made for holding weapons, not for opening doors for alien royalty. But orders were orders, and humanity needed this alliance. The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss. First came the guards, tall beings with skin like polished metal and eyes that glowed soft blue. They moved with the grace of dancers, their long robes flowing behind them. Then came the servants, carrying boxes of gifts and supplies. And finally she appeared. Princess was taller than expected. Her skin shimmered like liquid silver under the bay lights. Her hair, if it could be called hair, flowed down her back like strands of white silk. Her eyes held the light of distant stars, cold and ancient and beautiful. She looked at the gathered humans the way someone might look at insects. Felt his jaw tighten. He had fought in 3 wars. He had killed enemies that would give most people nightmares. He had earned every medal on his chest with blood and pain, and this alien princess looked at him like he was nothing. Ambassador stepped forward with a practiced smile. She was good at her job, knew. She could smile at anyone, no matter how much she disliked them. "Your Highness," said, bowing slightly, "welcome aboard the Eternal Dawn. We are honored by your presence." Inclined her head just a fraction. It was barely a movement at all. "The honor is functional," she replied. Her voice was strange, like wind blowing through crystal tubes. "I am here because my father commands it, nothing more." Smile did not falter. "Of course. May I introduce Lieutenant Park? He will be your personal security during the negotiations." Starbright eyes moved too. She studied him for a long moment, taking in his military uniform, his serious face, the old scar that ran along his jaw. Her expression did not change. "I do not require a human shadow," she said, still looking at but speaking to. "My own guards are more than enough." "With respect, Your Highness," said, his voice flat and calm, "I don't require your approval. I have my orders. You have your guards. We will all do our jobs." The temperature in the docking bay seemed to drop. Guards shifted, their hands moving toward their weapons. Smile finally cracked just a little. But simply stared at, something flickered in those ancient eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or curiosity. No one spoke to royalty that way. No one. "You are brave," she said at last, "or stupid. I have not decided which." "Take your time," replied. "I'm not going anywhere." Turned away without another word and walked toward the interior of the ship. Her guards followed, shooting dark looks at as they passed. Grabbed his arm the moment they were gone. "Are you trying to start an incident?" she hissed. "She needed to know I'm not afraid of her," said simply. "Fear makes bad bodyguards. This alliance is everything. If she complains to her father—" "She won't." Watched the princess disappear around a corner. "She's too proud to admit a human bothered her." The first week proved him right. Never complained. She simply pretended did not exist. She walked through the ship's corridors. He followed 3 steps behind. She attended diplomatic functions. He stood in corners, watching every face, every hand, every shadow. She spoke to other delegates, laughed at their jokes, played the perfect princess. He remained silent, invisible, always there. It was exhausting in a way combat never was. In a fight, you knew your enemy. Here, the enemy could be anyone. A smile could hide a knife. A handshake could deliver poison. Trusted no one. He watched more than anyone. Not because he suspected her, but because protecting someone meant understanding them. He noticed how her shoulders tensed when certain delegates approached. He saw how her smile became sharp and cold when Lord from the Merchant Guild stood too close. He observed how she relaxed just slightly when she was alone in the observation deck, watching the stars. She was lonely, he realized, surrounded by servants and guards and politicians, but completely alone. On the 7th night, followed her to the observation deck as usual. She stood before the massive windows, her silver form outlined against the endless dark. Stars streamed past as the ship moved through hyperspace, painting the room in soft colors. Then she stopped, her back straightened, and slowly she turned to face him. "Why are you gazing at my back, human?" Her voice was sharp, but there was something underneath it, something almost vulnerable. Met her eyes without fear. "I'm watching for threats, Your Highness. Your back is where they'll strike. That's why I watch it." She blinked. Whatever response she had expected, it was not that. "You think someone will attack me here, on a council flagship?" "I think danger doesn't care about location. I've seen people killed in places they thought were safe. I've seen soldiers die 10 feet from their beds." He paused. "My job is to make sure you don't become one of those people." Studied him for a long moment. The cold arrogance faded from her face, replaced by something more thoughtful. "You truly believe you could protect me, one human against whatever threats exist?" "I don't believe it, Your Highness. I know it." She turned back to the stars, but when she walked away, she walked slower than before, and for the first time felt like she knew he was there. Not as an insect, not as a shadow, as something else entirely. The Celestial Gala was the biggest event of the diplomatic season. 1,000 species gathered in the Grand Hall, dressed in their finest clothes, speaking in 100 different languages. Holographic nebulae floated above their heads, painting everything in shades of purple and gold. Music played from hidden speakers, soft and strange and beautiful. Hated every second of it. Too many people, too many angles, too many places for an enemy to hide. He stood near the wall, his eyes moving constantly, scanning every face. His hand stayed close to the weapon hidden under his formal jacket. Moved through the crowd like water, greeting delegates, accepting compliments, playing her role perfectly. She wore a gown that seemed made of starlight, flowing around her like mist. Every eye in the room followed her at some point. Watched her back. The feeling started small, a tingle at the base of his skull, like a cold finger pressing against his spine. He had felt it before, many times in many battles. It was the feeling that had saved his life more times than he could count. Something was wrong. He pushed away from the wall and began moving through the crowd. People made way for him without thinking about it. There was something in the way he moved, something dangerous, that made others step aside. Was speaking to a group of Merchant Guild representatives. Lord stood too close to her as always, his smile too wide and too false. His eyes moved past them, searching. There, near the east entrance, 3 figures in dark cloaks moving against the flow of the crowd. Their movements were wrong, too smooth, too focused. They were not here to enjoy the party. Moved faster, the crowd seemed to slow around him. His heart beat steady and calm. He had done this before. He knew what came next. He reached just as the first figure raised its hand. Something metallic glinted in the light. Grabbed her wrist and pulled her down, hard. "Move now. How dare you?" The plasma bolt screamed through the air where her head had been half a second before. It hit the wall behind them, leaving a smoking hole in the expensive decorations. Then chaos erupted. People screamed. Bodies ran in every direction. The music stopped. Alarms began to wail, pulled behind a support column, putting solid stone between her and the shooters. "Stay down," he ordered. "My guards are too far away." He drew his weapon, a compact plasma pistol that most species considered primitive. In his hands it was anything but, "Stay behind me, don't move." He stepped out from behind the column. The attackers were mercenaries. He recognized their chitinous armor, their multiple eyes, their clicking mandibles. They were expensive and effective. Someone had paid good money for this assassination. The first mercenary saw him and raised its weapon, was faster. His shot took it through its largest eye cluster. The creature fell without a sound. The second mercenary fired, rolled behind an overturned table, feeling the heat of the plasma bolt pass inches from his face. He came up shooting. 2 rounds hit the creature's thorax. It staggered. A third round put it down. The third mercenary was smarter. It had used the chaos to get close, turned just as it swung a curved blade at his shoulder. The blade cut deep. Pain exploded through his arm. Blood, red human blood, splattered across the floor. But pain was just information, had learned that long ago. He caught the mercenary's arm before it could swing again. His other hand drove his combat knife up through the soft spot under its chin. The creature's eyes went dark. It collapsed. Silence fell. Stood in a ring of bodies, bleeding badly, his weapon still raised. His breathing was steady. His hands did not shake. Around him, the gala guests stared in horror and amazement. 3 mercenaries, killed in less than 30 seconds, by 1 human. The guards finally arrived, surrounding their princess with weapons drawn. Council security flooded the hall. Medical teams rushed toward the wounded. Pushed past her guards and walked too. Her face was pale, her starlight eyes wide. "You're injured," she said. "I've had worse." He finally lowered his weapon. "You killed them all." "That's what humans do, Your Highness." His vision swam slightly from blood loss, but his voice stayed steady. "We survive, and we make sure the people we're protecting survive too." She stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Not as an insect, not as a primitive creature from a young species, but as something dangerous and wonderful and completely unexpected. "Why," she whispered, "you could have been killed for what, a treaty?" "For my mission." "Just your mission." Met her eyes. In that moment, with blood dripping from his arm and dead enemies at his feet, he told her the truth. "No, not just my mission." He collapsed before he could say more. The blood loss finally caught up with him. The last thing he saw was face above him, her hand reaching for his, her voice calling for help. When he woke, he was in the medical bay. His shoulder was sealed, his blood replaced, his wounds healing. And Princess sat beside his bed, watching him with those ancient, starlight eyes. "You stayed," he said. "You almost died for me," she replied. "The least I could do was wait." "Your advisors must be angry." "They are." A small smile touched her silver lips. "I find I do not care." She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was cool, like touching polished stone, but the gesture was warm. "I was wrong about your kind," she said quietly. "I thought humans were primitive, violent without purpose, dangerous without reason. And now I think you are the most terrifying species I have ever met." Her hand tightened on his. "And perhaps the most beautiful." Closed his eyes and let himself rest. For the first time since this mission began, he felt like he had done something right. Not for humanity, not for the treaty. For her. 3 weeks passed after the attack, healed quickly as humans often did. The doctors said it was remarkable. They said it was disturbing, said nothing at all. But something had changed between him and the princess. No longer pretended he did not exist. She spoke to him now, asked him questions, sought his company when her duties allowed. Her guards watched with confusion and worry. Her advisors whispered behind their hands. She ignored them all. They fell into a routine. Every evening after the diplomatic meetings ended, would go to the observation deck, and would follow. But now they stood together at the windows, watching the stars stream past. "Tell me about Earth," she said one night. Considered the question, "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Your people fascinate me now. I want to understand." So he told her. He spoke about blue oceans and green forests. He described mountains that touched the clouds and deserts that burned under a yellow sun. He talked about cities filled with millions of people, all living together, fighting and loving and building. "It sounds chaotic," said. "It is. We're a messy species. We fight over everything: land, resources, ideas. Sometimes we fight just because we're angry. And yet you survived. You reached the stars. You forced your way into a galaxy that did not want you. She turned to look at him. How? Was quiet for a moment. Because we were alone, he said finally. For thousands of years, we looked at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. We dreamed of finding others like us. And when we finally did, when we discovered we weren't alone, he shook his head. We refused to let anyone push us back into the dark. Even though the Council sees you as primitive, as violent animals with weapons. Yes. That doesn't anger you. Laughed softly. Of course it does, but anger doesn't solve anything. We prove them wrong by being better, by being stronger, by being so useful that they can't ignore us anymore. Moved closer to him. Her shoulder almost touched his. My people think emotions make you weak, she said. They say human attachment is a flaw in your evolution, that your feelings cloud your judgment and make you easy to control. And what do you think? She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. I am beginning to understand why your species terrifies the galaxy. You do not fight despite your emotions, you fight because of them. Love makes you brave, anger makes you strong, fear makes you careful. She looked at him with something new in her eyes. You are not weaker for feeling, you are stronger. Held her gaze. Some would say that's a dangerous thing to believe. Perhaps. A small smile touched her lips. I find I do not care about danger as much as I used to. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Meanwhile, far from the observation deck, intelligence officer worked through the night. Her quarters were filled with screens and data, all focused on one question: who had sent the assassins? The mercenaries were expensive but available to anyone with enough money. The trail of payments led through dozens of shell accounts and false names, but was patient. She had been finding hidden truths since before was born. Finally, after weeks of searching, she found the answer, and it made her blood run cold. She called to her quarters the next morning. He arrived still wearing his formal uniform, his face calm and controlled. He sat across from her and waited. The assassination attempt, said. It wasn't random. It wasn't political extremists or merchant rivals. Then who? Pushed a data pad across the table. Someone in her own court, someone high up. The payments traced back to the empire itself. Picked up the pad. His face did not change as he read, but his knuckles went white around the device. They want the princess dead, continued, and they want humanity blamed for it. If she dies under our protection, the peace treaty dies with her. The empire goes to war against us. Who exactly? His voice was quiet, dangerous. We don't know yet, but it's someone close to her, someone she trusts. Leaned forward. You need to be careful. The next attack could come from anywhere, even from people wearing uniforms. Stood, I need to tell her. That might not be wise. If she reacts badly, if she tells the wrong person. She deserves to know. He was already moving toward the door, and she's stronger than you think. He found in her quarters, reviewing diplomatic documents. She looked up when he entered, and her face softened when she saw him. Park, this is unexpected. We need to talk. He closed the door behind him. Someone in your court is trying to kill you. Her expression did not change. She set down her documents and folded her hands in her lap. I know, she said simply. You know. I have suspected for some time. The attack was too well planned. The mercenaries knew my schedule, my habits, my guard rotations. She met his eyes. Only someone close to me could have provided that information. Then why haven't you done anything? Because I do not know who it is. I cannot accuse without proof, and if I show fear, if I hide, they win. She stood and walked to him. But now I have something I did not have before. What? She took his hand. Her cool fingers wrapped around his warm ones. You, someone who protects me not because of duty or politics or fear, someone who protects me because, she paused, searching for the right words, because you see me, not the princess, not the symbol me. felt his heart beating faster. "I won't let anyone hurt you." "I believe you," she smiled, and for the first time it reached her starlight eyes. "I believe you completely." In that moment, standing in her quarters with her hand in his, made a silent promise. He would find whoever was trying to kill her. He would stop them. And if he had to burn down the entire galaxy to keep her safe, he would do it without hesitation. That was what humans did for the people they loved. The truth came like a knife in the dark. Lord was uncle. He had held her as a baby. He had taught her politics and diplomacy. He had stood beside her father for 300 years, loyal and trusted. And now he stood before her with murder in his ancient eyes. "I never wanted it to come to this," said. His voice was calm, almost sad. "You were always my favorite niece." Stood in the center of her private chambers, surrounded by guards who no longer protected her. They wore uniforms, but they served. Their weapons pointed at her heart. "Uncle," she said, keeping her voice steady, "this is treason. My father will destroy you." "Your father is weak. He always has been." Stepped closer. "He sees humans as potential allies. He wants to bring them into the council, give them power, treat them as equals. Can you imagine those violent, emotional creatures sitting among the great empires? They have proven themselves. They have proven nothing but their capacity for destruction." His calm cracked, showing the hate beneath. "We have watched them for centuries. We have seen their history, war after war after war. They cannot go 10 years without killing each other. And now your father wants to give them starships, political power, access to our technology." Times change, species evolve. Humans do not evolve. They consume, they spread, they destroy everything they touch. Drew a long silver blade from his robes. "When you die here, killed by the human guard who failed to protect you, the Empire will finally see the truth. They will demand war, and we will crush humanity before they become a threat." Looked at the blade. She looked at the guards surrounding her. She looked at her uncle, who had read her bedtime stories 3 centuries ago. "Where is?" she asked. Smiled. "Your human pet, locked in the lower decks. A small security malfunction that will not be repaired until this is done. He cannot help you. You underestimate him. He is one human against an empire. He is nothing." Far below, in a maintenance corridor, Park slammed his fist against a sealed door. The security lockdown had trapped him 3 levels below the royal quarters. Every door was sealed. Every elevator was frozen. And somewhere above him was in danger. He could feel it, that cold tingle at the base of his skull, screaming that something was wrong. He looked at the sealed door. It was made of reinforced alloy, designed to stop attacks and contain emergencies. It was not designed to be broken through. But it was also not designed for humans. Step back. He studied the door's weak points, the places where the seals met the frame, the small gaps where maintenance access was possible. Then he started working. He had no tools. He had his combat knife, his sidearm, and his bare hands. It would have to be enough. 15 minutes later, bleeding from his fingers and breathing hard, he tore the access panel free and crawled through the maintenance shaft behind it. The shaft was tight and dark. He moved on his elbows and knees, following the ship's layout from memory. Up 2 levels, turn left at the junction, straight ahead until the royal section. He emerged in a service closet near the royal quarters. His uniform was torn and dirty. His hands were raw, but he was here. Now came the hard part. He could hear voices through the walls, guards moving in the corridor, at least 6 of them, probably more. They would be expecting trouble. They would be ready. Checked his weapon, 12 shots. His knife was still sharp. His body ached from the crawl, but he pushed the pain away. He had fought worse odds before. He had survived worse situations. He was a human. This was what his species did. He opened the door and started killing. The first guard fell before he knew was there. The second managed to raise his weapon before a knife found his throat. The third and fourth fired wildly, their shots going wide as moved among them like a ghost. More guards came, kept moving, he took hits. A blade sliced his arm, a fist cracked his ribs, but he did not stop. He could not stop, not while was in danger. He reached the door to her chambers just as his ammunition ran out. 3 guards stood between him and the entrance. He dropped his empty weapon and raised his knife. "Move," he said. They did not move. So he made them. When the doors finally opened, was covered in blood, most of it not his own. His knife was gone, broken in the last fight. His ribs screamed with every breath, but he was standing. Spun, his silver blade raised. His eyes widened when he saw the human in the doorway. "Impossible," he breathed. "The lockdown." "Didn't work," stepped into the room. "Nothing works when you're trying to keep a human from someone they love." Guards moved to intercept him, picked up a fallen weapon and shot them without looking. His eyes never left. "You cannot win," said, raising his blade. "I have trained in combat for 300 years. I've been fighting since I could walk," limped forward. "Let's see whose training is better." The fight was brutal and short, was fast, skilled, experienced. His blade moved like water, cutting and slashing with precision. He opened wounds on his arms, his chest, his face. But did not care about wounds. He did not care about pain. He cared only about ending the threat. He caught his blade arm on a downward stroke. The impact shattered something in his wrist, but he held on. His other hand found his throat and squeezed. His eyes bulged. His blade fell from his fingers. He clawed its arm, but humans were stronger than they looked, much stronger. "You lose," whispered. Vel stood swaying for a moment. Then his legs gave out and he collapsed beside the body. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was his voice, calling his name. "Stay with me, please." He tried to answer. He tried to tell her he was fine, that he had done his job, that she was safe now. But the words would not come. So he simply smiled and let the darkness take him. Woke to the sound of machines and the smell of clean air. Medical bay, again. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was familiar now. He had spent too much time looking at it. "You are awake." He turned his head, sat beside his bed just as she had done before, but this time something was different. Her silver face was softer, her starlight eyes were warm, and she was holding his hand. "How long?" he asked. His voice was rough. 3 days, the doctor said you should have died." A small smile touched her lips. "I told them they did not understand humans." Tried to sit up. Pain shot through his chest and he fell back with a grunt. "Your ribs are still healing," said. "Along with your arm, your shoulder, and several organs I cannot pronounce in your language. You fought through injuries that would have killed most beings." "Had to," he looked at her. "You were in danger." "I was," she squeezed his hand. "And you came for me. Through locked doors and armed guards and my own uncle, you came for me." "That's my job." "No," she shook her head. "Your job was to protect me. What you did was something else entirely." She leaned closer, her face inches from his. "What you did was love me." Could not deny it. He did not want to. "Yes," he said simply, "I do." Closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they shimmered with something he had never seen in a before. Tears. "My people do not cry," she whispered. "We are taught from birth to control our emotions, to be cold and logical and perfect. But when I saw you fall, when I thought you were dead," she touched his face with her cool fingers, "I felt something break inside me, something I did not know I had." "What did you feel?" "Fear, grief, rage," she laughed softly. "All those human emotions I was taught to despise. I felt them all and I understood." "Understood what?" "Why your species is so strong. Why the galaxy fears you. It is not your weapons or your technology or your numbers." She leaned down and pressed her forehead to his. "It is your hearts. They are so full of feeling that you cannot help but be brave. You love so deeply that you will die for it without hesitation. They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing together. Then pulled back and smiled. Also, my uncle is dead and his conspirators have been executed. My father sends his thanks and his apologies. The peace treaty has been signed. Humanity has their council seat. Oh, blinked, that's good. Laughed, a beautiful sound like bells ringing. You nearly died to save the future of human relations, and your response is that's good. I didn't do it for the treaty. I know, she squeezed his hand again. That is why I have made a decision. What decision? I have volunteered to serve as ambassador to Earth. I will live among humans, learn their ways, build bridges between our species. Her eyes sparkled. My father was surprised. My court was horrified. Apparently, a princess does not choose to live among primitives. And what did you say? I said that I had learned more about strength and courage and love from one human than I had learned in 3 centuries of education. She lifted his hand and pressed it to her cheek. I said that I would rather stand beside that human than sit on any throne in the galaxy. Felt his heart swell. The court must have loved that. They think I have lost my mind. They think humans have corrupted me with their emotions and their chaos. She smiled. They are probably right. I know what I am giving up. Power, status, the respect of my people. She held his gaze. I do not care. When I think of the future now, I only want one thing. What? You, she leaned close again. I want you, Park. Your strength and your stubbornness and your impossible human heart. I want to wake up beside you and fall asleep in your arms. I want to spend whatever years I have left watching you do impossible things. That sounds like a lot, said softly. It is, it terrifies me. Her voice trembled slightly. But I have decided that, like your species, I will not let fear stop me from reaching for what I want. She kissed him then. Her lips were cool against his. She tasted like starlight and frost and something indefinably alien, but beneath it all she tasted like hope. When she pulled back was smiling. I should warn you, he said. Humans are high maintenance. We need food and sleep and constant attention. I am aware. We get sick, we get old, we die much faster than. I know, her voice was steady. I will take whatever time I can get. And we're stubborn. We argue about everything. We make terrible jokes and laugh at the wrong moments. I am counting on it, she smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. I have spent 300 years being perfect. I think I am ready to try being happy instead. Outside the medical bay windows, the stars streamed past. The eternal dawn carried them toward a future that neither species could have imagined. Humans and, working together, building something new. But did not care about politics or empires or the fate of species. He cared about the woman beside him, the princess who had looked at him like an insect and now looked at him like he was the entire universe. He pulled her close and held her against his healing chest. Stay with me, he whispered. Always, she replied. And somewhere in the galaxy, in war rooms and council chambers, beings who had dismissed humanity as primitive began to realize their mistake. Humans did not just survive. They did not just fight and kill and conquer. They loved, they hoped, they dreamed. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. Because a species that would die for love would never, ever stop fighting. They would reach the stars. They would take their place among the empires. They would change the galaxy forever. Not with weapons. With heart. And Princess, holding her human soldier in her arms, knew she had chosen the right side. The winning side. The human side.